All right, just a quick recap from the game yesterday. Like we said last night, a great team win against a division opponent. Good to be in Lucas Oil. Limited fan base, limited fans there. Obviously, feeling the love and the juice there from our fans. It's great to be in Lucas Oil. Played well in all three phases. Watching the tape, was really particularly pleased with how we played up front, O-line and D-line. Offensive line, we wanted to run the ball. Averaging 5.5 a carry was a good day. We did a lot of good things up front. Those guys up front played well in the run game and the pass game. And defensively, I thought our D-line played real well. Obviously, particularly DeForest in a limited role, still getting 3 sacks and having the impact that he has. That was pretty incredible. But, if we're going to continue to get better as a team, it's going to start with what we do up front and how our offensive and defensive line play. So, we're going to look at the tape here, as a team tomorrow. We'll be very critical and looking for ways to get better. Very important that we use every play, every minute of every day that we're in our meetings and at work to be productive and to be focused and to bring an energy to our work. And part of that is in recapping a game and, have the same intensity that you go into a game. You feel like when you're reviewing the film, how am I going to attack getting better by watching this film and being critical of myself and pushing myself to get better. So that's what we need to do, here today and tomorrow, and then to begin our process to get ready for the Pittsburgh Steelers. No updates on injuries. Marcus Johnson was one we gave yesterday. Nothing new other than his quad injury. Open it up for questions.
Mike Chappell.
Frank, I don't want to jinx you guys, but you've had no turnovers in half your games, 7 games. Everybody stresses that. Why is that working so well this year? Being aggressive and doing what you want to do, but taking care of the ball?
Well, it's a combination of players focused on it, practicing it on, in all 3 phases. We talk about it all the time. And our players take it serious. I mean, we know, and every player knows the importance of protecting the football and taking the ball away. Do I think we really are hyper emphasize it? Yeah, I do. But I think it's all about the players taking ownership of it. And I think they have. In particular, I think Tom Rathman does a great job. His presence on our team is very strong in this regard as far as the offense is concerned. He's unrelenting. To anybody who touches that football is going to hear from Coach Rathman if they're not carrying it the right way. So we appreciate he contributes in a lot of ways, but he has a major contribution in that area.
You mean like Eagle Claw?
Like the Eagle Claw. That's right.
One quick follow-up on the turnovers. All your analytics, is that the one that still shows you is most influential in wins and losses, is winning the takeaway battle?
Yeah, it's, when you look at the numbers, Chap, as far as win percentage, don't quote me on this, but, I think if it's a 2 turnover, if it's a 2 plus 2, I think it's about 80% win percentage, maybe it's low 80s. It's always been there. It kind of hovers around the 80 percentile mark, as I recall. So, there's some other things. There's a lot of factors that go into a lot of statistics, but this is one that's always at the forefront. Every week, when we look at, the opponent, we kind of internally amongst the coaches do this tail of the tape thing. And, when you look at a scouting report, like for instance, this week, Pittsburgh, they're 8-0 when they win the turnover battle. And that's usually the same for every team. You see, what are they when they win it? What are they when they lose it? And it's no secret. That's why it's part of our double positive that we talk about. And the double positive, of course, is winning the turnover battle and winning the big plays battle.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, George Bremer.
Coach, a lot is rightfully made of Zach Pascal's ability to block and do a lot of the dirty work. But does his talent as a wide receiver sometimes get lost in the mix there?
I think it does. I mean, not amongst our quarterbacks and offensive coaching staff, but with so many other guys that are talked about, the TYs, and then you get the high draft picks and Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor, and those guys deservedly get a lot of attention. But Zach, when we sit around talking internally, and we all respect Zach for what he brings to the table, and Zach is just so unselfish. He's never trying to. Yeah, I mean, he's just an unselfish player. But like that first touchdown yesterday, I was, just watching the replay of it again today over and over again. His footwork at the top of that route, the kind of double move break to the skinny nod there that Phillip hit him on. You can't run that route any better than he ran it. He's a great player.
Okay, we'll go Zach Kiefer.
Frank, we've heard Chris talk for years about the importance of the O-line and D-line, especially this time of year, December and January. I wanted to ask you how you've seen it evolve from not your first year coaching here, but when you watch the tapes from 17, compare that to what you have now, both offensive line and defensive line.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's really made this work is that, Chris and I were just totally lockstep on, the philosophy of how important this was. And so from day one, but you got to put your money where your mouth is. You got to draft guys. You got to take the 6th pick of the draft and do something crazy and draft a guard. And then you got to put your money where your mouth is. You got to go on the limb and give up a 1st-round draft pick for a defensive tackle. And Chris has done that. So, and we need to continue to do it. It's because the attrition rate is so fast. You just have to continue to put time and money into it to develop that. And because when you get later in the year here, it's really what it's all about.
If you don't mind me asking a follow-up, we know why Chris is like that. How long have you been like that? Why are you so heavy O-line, D-line? Was there any influences early in your career? Or why were you guys so easily on step from when you got here? What influences made you think like that?
I'm a quarterback. I know how. I'm a quarterback. I know my lifeblood is the offensive line. I grew up in a household of offensive line. My dad was a football coach. He was an All-American offensive lineman. My brother is a football coach. He was an offensive lineman. It's always been ingrained into me from the time I ever got involved in football that it all starts up front. And, when I was a player, I wasn't as talented as some of the other guys who I played with, the likes of like Jim Kelly. So when I would play, I had success, but a lot of my success came from the fact that we had a good offensive line and we could run the football. And, my job was to help put us in the right play to let those guys do what they do. So all the good teams I've been on, every single one of them, without exception, it started up front. I mean, and you got to inside out, which includes quarterback and the like.
Kevin Bowen.
Hey, Frank, I asked Phillip this yesterday and just kind of curious your thoughts. That touchdown drive to take the lead, you guys haven't really been in a lot of those situations this year, weirdly, like you just haven't been behind or tied in the 4th quarter needing to score. Have you sensed that at all? And what can that drive do for that unit's confidence? It
does a lot. It's funny you say that. I was actually watching his interview when you asked him that question. I wasn't watching it live, but I watched it last night. And when you asked him that question, I hadn't thought about that either. That really was the first time, I think, this year that we were put in that situation. But, having success in that moment is a good thing. I mean, this doesn't guarantee future success, but it does give you confidence. And, the way we went about it and what we had to overcome on the drive, it just gives you a lot of confidence that we got the playmakers, to make those plays when you really need it in the clutch.
And then one follow-up, the AFC standings right now, I know you don't, obviously look at them nonstop, but does it shock you at all that 10 wins and you still need to do a lot just to get in the playoffs with a 7th spot open this year?
Yeah, it's shocking, but, in a weird way, I was saying to myself this morning, you look at it like exactly what you said, Kevin. I mean, I don't dwell on it. You look at it. Of course, you wake up the next day, you see where you're at, you assess it, you say, okay, now let's go back to what we do. And, in a weird way, I'm saying, I'm glad it's like this, because our goal is, our goals are high. Our goals are high. And And the way that we get to where we want to go to is by worrying about the Pittsburgh Steelers and by worrying about what we're going to do tomorrow when we watch the film and how we're going to practice on Wednesday, how we're going to learn to play better fundamental football and play as a team and do the little things right. And the rest of it takes care of itself. If we're good enough, we'll be there. And but the way to be good enough is to focus on getting better every day.
Jim Aiello.
Yeah, Frank, I wanted to ask you about another stat, something that I think Chris Ballard said at the end of last year's press conference was one that he really looked at a lot was point differential. I was wondering at what point of the year do you start looking at point differential, if you do, or something that you put much weight into, and you know, how can it, I guess, be instructive at this point in the season?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I know a lot of people do talk about that. From what I hear, I think it does have some merit. It's not a stat that I've ever spent a whole time. I've never spent a whole lot of time looking at that stat for whatever reason. I'm not even sure why. But it's just never been a priority to me. I don't doubt that there's something to it, but I don't know the nuances of the stat. So it's just not one I've chosen to emphasize.
Fox CBS.
Hey, Coach, JoJo Gentry here. I know you're all about team wins and not necessarily individual performances, but who on the Colts roster do you feel is deserving of making this year's Pro Bowl, even though there is no game this year?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it, but it's really hard for the head coach to answer that question because we have so many deserving players in my mind. So while I'll refrain from saying names, I'm really proud of the individual effort and the guys that we have that'll make it. And I have no doubt there's going to be guys who don't make it, who deserve to make it. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing how it plays out and how the voting takes place. It's important. It's important to me as the coach. I want to see our players attain their individual goals of making Pro Bowls and all pros. Because I know it's important to the players. I know what it means to have that kind of respect, and they should feel that way. There's nothing, they shouldn't feel guilty about wanting to feel that. But yet what I'm most proud of is I know all of our guys' number one goal are our team goals, to win a championship. So, we'll take these individual honors as they come. We'll celebrate them, for the individuals that get them, for the guys that, fall short this year. We'll focus those energies on our team goals, and we'll continue to push for them for their individual goals as well.
And last one, Joel Eric.
Frank, you were talking about the offensive line earlier. Has it changed sort of in how important each position is? Because it used to be, left tackle, left tackle, left tackle, but now with the emphasis on interior rush and a lot of the best guys rushing off of against the right tackle, it feels like it's just changed in terms of where you need to focus.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair statement, Joel. I think left tackle is still probably the most important position, but your point is well taken, is that these interior players and interior pass rushers, like we have one, DeForest, who is, in my opinion, if not the best, he's one of the 1 or 2 or 3 best in the NFL. And we see what he does for us every week, how disruptive he is, not just in the pass game. As an interior guy, he can not only be an elite pass rusher and get 3 sacks in a game, but he can wreck the run game, which he does. And when he's playing, and one of the reasons our defense has been so good against the run is because of what he's doing, wreaking havoc inside. It's a unit effort, no doubt. But so what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that's why, going back to Zach's earlier question, the chain, right? I hate to say, an old saying, I guess, but the chain's only as strong as the weakest link. You got to be good all the way up front. You can't have a weakness up front. It's too important. So you got to be strong in the interior. And so we're very fortunate. The 3 guys that we got inside are all legit players in this league. So we got to continue to put the investment into that. Just too critical. And like you said, Joel, the interior players are just getting more athletic and more explosive, and we have to counter that.
What about your right tackle, Braden, and how he's?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to start naming names, but if you're naming one of the guys who I think is one of the better right tackles in the league, it's Braden Smith. I mean, the way he's playing this year, he's playing lights out, and he's been a model of consistency through every game. I'm not sure he's had a bad day in practice or on Sundays. So the guy's a stud. He's a stud player, and deserving of those kind of honors.